So we'll talk about what makes a startup investable. And our first module is business essentials, which is value proposition, which is your elevator pitch. All four modules cover the things that really make a startup investable: your unique value proposition. You should have attractive market size. You should have a team in place that can execute, and financials to back up the execution. And then we'll talk about valuation and pitch decks. Again, valuation is a big part of making you investable or not investable. And how you pitch obviously makes a big difference. Again, those are the four things that you need, that when you pitch, that's how investors evaluate you. We all have little scorecards. We all keep track of what we like, what we don't like, but it's not a subjective, we like you, we don't like you. We make notes, we put down scores, and those are the big buckets that we evaluate you on. And unique value proposition is key, not only because it has to be attractive, but because a lot of times we actually don't understand what your unique value proposition is, and it becomes a no-go. It doesn't matter how good a team is. We don't care about the market size or your valuation. If we don't believe in your unique value proposition and the product market fit, it's a no-go. So we'll focus on it today. So here's what investors look at. This is kind of a mini checklist. The real problem, it has to be the unmet need, and it has to be very well articulated. I need to know why your potential customer will buy what you have, not why the product is great, but why they would actually buy it. Is your solution novel? Did you de-risk your technology? Did you de-risk the market? And that is where the unmet need comes in. The market opportunity, that's the proverbial TAM, SAM, SOM, and we'll talk about it. It just has to be big enough. Let's put it that way. There's sometimes too much emphasis on TAM, SAM, SOM, and trying to get those numbers as big as possible. But it really is, as an investor, we need to know, is the ocean that you swim in is big enough? So that even if you don't have a great team, perhaps, or your salespeople are not as good as you think they are, the market is big enough where you can grow. Well, crazy. Okay, so this is the checklist. Yeah, you guys. I know I'm saying here's the checklist, and you guys can't see anything. That was sad. So again, real problem, unmet need. That's de-risking the market, right? Solution, did you de-risk the technology? Will it work? Is it a novel solution? The market opportunity, the size of the market. The strong team, absolutely essential, and it has to be a team. It cannot be one founder and just a lot of vendors. Again, we do work with startups that only have one founder, and they're working on getting their team. And we're still working on the pitch decks, but you are not investable until you have a team. Okay, scalable business model, but we'll talk about that. But it basically, it has to do with margins. It has to go to do with the size of your market, the customer, also your channels, how you get to your customers. Is that scalable? Because at the beginning, let's face it, there's a lot of making phone calls by the CEO. If it is the market where you can actually do it, obviously B2C would never work that way. But most of you, I would assume, are B2B. Again, competition is a big part of it. A lot of investments do not happen when the notes on the due diligence say that this is a very crowded space. And unfortunately, there are a lot of areas that we see that are crowded, and maybe there's a good solution, and it's kind of a curse. You come in at the time when the market is crowded, everyone is fighting for the same client and the same customer. So can you scale it? Can you scale it in a different way? Is your business model more attractive? Is there something there? And if on top of it you don't have strong IP, that's really sort of a kiss of death. And I've seen a lot of deals go south because of that. Traction validation, again, that's probably the most common comment you would get if you're not getting an investment. Come back when you have more traction. We'll talk more about it because sometimes it's very deceiving. It's sometimes just a polite way to say no. And you need to know or have a good idea of how well you scored on other items. And if it's in fact just the traction that investors are complaining about, or is that just a polite way for them to say no? And again, attractive investment terms, where there's a lot of misunderstanding about claiming just putting your stake on and claiming your valuation, saying, look, I put the foot in the ground, this is what my company is worth, versus throwing it on the board, going as high as you think you might be able to, and or not putting valuation at all. You can't avoid it because you valued based on the terms, right? An opportunity that could be very attractive on every other level can absolutely tank when it comes to the terms and valuation. We just had a deal go down, nowhere because they wanted 100 million valuation pre-FDA. Wasn't going to happen. Okay, so let's dive in and let's talk about the value proposition. If you want to use business model canvas, there's also a sort of slide on that that has to do with value proposition itself. If you break it down, really, it comes to gains and pains by your customer. And a customer has a job, and it's your job to know what your customer's job is. Not to use too many words that go round and round, but every customer has a job. That job that they do could be done better. They don't really want your product. They don't care about your product, right? They only care about the job that they have to do, and your product is nothing more than a tool. So as an entrepreneur, we are excited about what our solution can do. But a customer is really not excited about that. They really couldn't care less about your branding or about anything else, about all the features of your product. They care about their job that they have to do day in, day out. And either you can help them do that job better, or really they may say, great solution, and good luck. But they will never really purchase. So either it's a gain or a pain. Are you eliminating a certain pain? So are you making something more effortless? Or is it a gain? They can scale their business with your tool. They can get something that they absolutely cannot get right now without your tool. Investors sometimes call it pill or vitamin. They would love for you to be a pill, meaning someone needs to take it, as opposed to a vitamin, which is just nice to have. It doesn't mean that you're a vitamin that you can't make money on, because let's face it, the entire movie industry is based on nothing more but bringing you that gain of having a good time. And that's definitely not a painkiller. People just want something because they want it, not because there's any pain they're trying to relieve. So if you really understand that customer job and you know what your product is solving, is it a gain or a pain, you're better positioned to tell your customer why they should buy your product. And in turn, you better articulate to your investor. So just a quick definition of a job to be done, right? That customer has a job. It's a task, goal, or objective a person is trying to accomplish, or a problem they're trying to resolve. So you always have to go back to that. What is your customer trying to solve? So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to pause now. Let's have someone volunteer. And I would much rather you just unmute yourself and don't tell me about your product. Tell me about your customer and the job that they are trying to do in your view. And then we'll come back, we'll follow that up with what your solution is or what their real problem is. But can someone just talk to me about their customer and what is their job? No one wants to volunteer, huh?
Let's see. So for Amarun, like caregivers, that's their job. They are taking care of children, caregivers. So that job for them is to monitor their child.
Okay. So that's an easy definition of a job. Okay. Inside of that job, what do they care about as it relates to that job? What is their biggest priority? How do they judge whether themselves, if they're doing a good job, or how do others, who obviously maybe hire them if it's not a family, how do others judge them? Are they doing a good job or or not a good job?
Based on for us, it's based on the blood test they do. Probably they see if they're taking care of the child or not. I don't know, maybe.
Okay, got it. Okay. I know it's hard not to get into details, but I guess I would say that they know if they're doing a good job, if there's clinical evidence. Correct. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
May I ask if the job is, say it's like a healing type product, so like someone's natural ability to heal from something is a kind of the job. It's not really like a skill or an outward action, but more of like an internal healing within one's body. Does this apply towards that?
So a customer wants to be healthy, right?
Yeah, right.
So I think their job in this case is, and I would guess based on your customer segment, that the job is to get healthy without relying on pharmaceuticals, for example. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. Or
okay, that's
something to replace the pharmaceutical, a different way of supporting the healing process.
So in this case, that would be the case, because if you just say their job is to stay healthy, I would then immediately say, well, I mean, there's a lot of things they can do to stay healthy, right? But they're looking for a very specific way. Their job is to find something, and they're probably online looking for it, right? Their job is to find something that's gentle on the body, that's not, the pharmaceutical route. And that's your sort of customer. That's what their job is, and they're still looking for that solution. Their job is to find it, right? It could be, if you imagine it, they're doing it on behalf of someone else, and if your customer is delegating this to someone else, how would they phrase it? They will say, hey, I don't have any time to do this, but can you do this for me? Can you find a way for me to either cure something specific or just stay healthy in a non-pharmaceutical way? And then that person goes off and their job is to find that way, right? And you are hopefully one of those options that they would look at, and they would hire you, your solution, to get that job done for their customer. I know it's different sort of terminology and a different way of looking at it, but that's how I would phrase it. And it sometimes helps to step back and think about it in those terms. Does that help, Carrie?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. That's really helpful.
So I'm going to use actually an example from Clay Christensen and his methodology, because he uses those terms heavily. Well, he died, but you can still get access to his lectures and listen. He has a framework that he called the Milkshake framework for short. And he talked about products being really hired by customers who have that job to be done. And he found that terminology very useful, and he was very creative on how he talked about it. So for example, his, you can watch this video, the link is there, and you will get the slides. He was asked to help one of the fast food companies create a better milkshake. So he went back and he tried to understand, well, what does that milkshake do for a customer? I mean, it's kind of obvious. It's a milkshake, you drink it. but he asked the question slightly different, like, what do customers hire that Milkshake to do? And he did a quick observation. He used students because he was at Harvard, so he had a lot of free labor. And they went and they tracked people who were buying milkshakes. And it turned out that the most sales were done in the morning. Most of them were drive-through sales, and they looked like they were people going to work. Then eventually they interviewed those people, and they said, well, they didn't use the word, why did you hire the milkshake? They try to ask, well, why did you get a milkshake versus a banana versus an apple versus something else? But their underlying rationale was to find out how to put it in English, right? Like, why are they hiring the milkshake? And it turned out that people were doing it because it was a long commute and they couldn't use a banana, it was too messy. And they needed to be sort of entertained on the way to work. So milkshake was a perfect tool for that because it takes longer to drink, right? If you buy an apple juice, it's pretty much gone quickly. Milkshake is slushy, so it takes them almost all the way to their office. Plus it fills them up so they don't feel as hungry. So if you analyze it that way, it becomes obvious that what you want to do is create that milkshake. If you want to improve it, it's not about different flavors, it's really about making it more slushy, so it takes even longer to drink it. So that was the hypothesis. So that's what, right now is kind of referred to as a milkshake theory. And that's what we're trying to do here is look at your customer as doing a job that they need to get done. In this case, you can say the person's job is to get to work, get some nutrients in, don't feel as hungry as if you would, if you drink quick apple juice. Your job is also to not mess up the car and not get your steering wheel all sticky if you got a banana and had trash all over your car. So all those things, like, you can break it down, even something as simple as milkshake, and talk about it in those terms. Oops, that's a repeat slide, so we're going to delete that. Oops, I guess it's not a repeat slide. I just got out of order. There we go. So categories of value propositions. So that falls right into the same conversation where pills versus vitamins, what are you really selling? So I would argue that every product that you sell, your value proposition falls into one of those categories where this is the core of what you do. So for example, if you are, let's go back to Elmira. You're talking about caregivers, right? So can I ask you, what is your value proposition without telling you what the value proposition is, but is it tapping into something that's functional that your customer is trying to do and you're providing them that very functional tool? Or is it something emotional that you're providing them with? So there's certain emotional aspect to what they do and you're helping with that. Is it life-changing? And let me kind of clarify what life-changing is. You're basically promising that, like, your entire life may change. The best example for that is usually universities offer you degrees because they say, look, it's going to change your life. You will have a different job, the one that you can't get without education. You will be successful in life. So it really will change your life. It's not just something functional or emotional. And social impact, obviously, I think it's pretty obvious that there's that satisfaction of doing something that goes beyond your own needs. So Elmira, can you talk to me, what do you tap into when you approach your customer or when you design a solution for them? Is it a functional solution, emotional, life-changing? Maybe I'm using the wrong name. I assumed it was Elmira talking about caregivers. Was it someone else?
No, it was me. I'm just wondering if so it's actually both. It's saving them time plus improving their child, the child life health long term. So it can be also like let's say it can be both. I think for the caregiver, it will help them emotionally feel safe and knowing what they do, because usually caregiver like to be in control of what's going on, and it saved them time because they need to do other things like work. So, and plus it helped the child life long term. It will. So I think both.
Okay.
So life changing and functional because of time. Emotional, probably for the caregiver because they feel in control more.
Okay, so that's probably a good example, because you can see where you really should pick. On one hand, you should pick one that that'll be the core proposition that you talk about. And I'm guessing just because you revealed a little bit, you talked about the medical test, that this is something a little more functional at the core, right? If I were just to guess. That
So if I want to focus on one, I would say definitely improve the child life. And so it would be life-changing.
Okay, so that would be, you would start the proposition with it's going to change the life of the child, and then how you do it, you would explain it in functional terms, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the key here is to know where you stand, right? You pick the most important proposition, and that comes first. And then the rest is supporting it. The other part of it is you should look at all of them and make sure you're not leaving something out. Because maybe you're not tapping into the emotional side of it. And again, if that's not the main proposition, and if it's really marginal, you may not want to go there. But if it's a big deal, then you have to look at it and see how you can best articulate it. Anyone else wants to take a stab as what are they solving? What is the core proposition, without telling me what the proposition is?
I'm still thinking about it. Like I'm still thinking. So I'm learning from you as well. So I'm still thinking how to organize it. So yeah.
Anyone else wants to talk about their value proposition, again, only in these terms, without telling me what they do? All right, no volunteers. Okay, hopefully you're thinking about it on your own, and you know the answer. So how do you let's move on to discovering your value proposition, because a lot of times, even if you are already in business, you may not know how to articulate it. But if you are starting from scratch, and this is those are really two ways the value proposition sort of emerges if we just look at all the startups. One of it is you observed or interviewed a potential customer, and you identified the tasks they're doing or trying to do. You understand what they do, and then you create a hypothesis about the overall job that requires these tasks, right? And then, so this is more of a design thinking. It starts with observation. You understand the job, and then you can find out how to make that job easier and better. Then you perform customer discovery to validate your assumptions, because once you observed certain clients, you want to validate that if you come back to them and you say, here's what I can do for you to make your job easier, does that resonate? Were you actually correct? That's probably more rare, unfortunately. I mean, we would love to say that every startup goes about it this way. They observe, they learn, then they come up with the solution. But most times than not, you have something that you already invented or you licensed, if it's a transfer, a technology transfer, or your CEO that was brought on to execute. So something is already invented, something is already there. Now, you still have to go back and create a hypothesis about the overall job that requires this invention, or might use this invention as a solution to generate your value proposition. At this point, you're kind of stuck with the solution, and what you don't want to do is be in that stage of solution looking for a problem for too long, because And if you pitch to an investor and they label you as a solution looking for a problem, that's really one of those, kisses of death. When someone makes that note, and in the internal discussion after you leave the room, so to speak, the investors say, well, I think it's a cool tech, but it seems like a solution looking for a problem. So you want to eliminate that, and you want to sort of start fresh. You hypothesize about the job your customer is doing. You have to then validate that. Because your story doesn't change. Something got created. And the invention is there, the creation is there. You can't rewrite the story and say, well, we looked at someone doing their job. We said, wow, how can we do it better? We went back and we invented this, right? The story is the story, you already invented it. Now your job is to really justify that you found the perfect job that your invention will help get done. The end of it is always performing customer discovery. And that is the stage that everyone probably hates the most, because we all want to just go straight to the pitch deck, because it feels in the gut, you feel, I like the solution is great. I know what problem it can solve. It's a no-brainer. We just need to execute. We need to raise the money. But you will be asked about the customer discovery stage that you went through. And if we're talking about medical devices or life science, it is not the case, probably 99% of the time, that you observed someone and you discovered what they need, and then you created it, and someone is there just waiting to buy it. A lot of time you actually need to educate that you created something that will solve the problem that they might not even knew that existed. And you will be asked how many interviews you performed. Now, if you go through I-Core, you will be forced to do interviews. If you go through, let's say if you're on your own, or if you go through SBDC, we can't force you to go and do customer discovery. We can only tell you that you need it. But trust me, when you go in front of an investor, they definitely will ask you how much discovery you performed. And if you only have one founder, let's say that the reason the company was created was because the founder knew that there was this problem. Again, a lot of times if it's a clinician, it's very easy to tell that story. But clinicians are very, let's say, unique. And just because one clinician thought that this is a problem and he came up with the solution, doesn't mean that it will be adopted on a big scale. So you need to have that validation beyond few people who are in the group, so to speak. So when you do customer discovery, you want to be very disciplined as how you do it. It is hypotheses. So what is the current state? And you need the answer because you actually need to articulate that to an investor. When you start your presentation, you talk about your elevator pitch, you need to educate the investor about what is currently happening in the space. How does the job get done right now? A lot of times startups assume that if they just jump quick enough to the solution, it will all fall into place. It'll be obvious that the solution is great. But without really setting the stage, you can't move forward. So during that customer discovery, you really need to map out what is currently happening. You also should ask, what is the main reason that current solution is being used? Because someone is doing it one way or the other, right? You're not creating a job for the customer. The customer already has a job. They're doing something. You just have a tool that you hope they will hire to get that job done. So they're using something, be it piece of paper or a pencil, or simple a way in the lab to test something, or observation. Either way they do it, there is a way they do it now. If they use a tool that they paid for, you need to know what was the main reason for that selection, because no tool is perfect. So they can tell you that it's not perfect and they can complain about it. And you may think that your solution will address all those complaints, but there's the big reason why they purchased solution X versus someone else. And it's the same reason why they may not switch to you. And you need to know, and because in some cases it's purely cost and there's nothing you can do. And I can tell you the story. There was one, it was a cybersecurity solution. The company that they went to put them through paces, they ran a test, which is kind of a benchmark they have everyone go through. So all the vendors that try to compete for the solution execute on those tasks, so they can see how well they performed. And that company, that startup, outperformed everyone by a lot. They still did not get hired. And they did not get hired because ultimately the budget did not support their solution. And people on the inside really wanted that solution, but they just could not do it, because the main reason they were buying it was it had to be within that budget. And as a second, they had to be higher on the test than other companies. Now, if they couldn't clear the budget, it didn't matter that they were that much better than everyone else. They still did not get hired. So the question number two, sort of the bucket of questions, is what is the future ideal state? What don't they like about the current solution that they want to change? What are they compromising on with the current solution, and any important features that are missing? So this is more of just nuts and bolts of customer discovery interview. But what you're really trying to identify is you want to make sure that you can address those problems, but also that those problems are not minor, because everyone's always going to complain about something. So let me go back to everyone and ask, I need someone to tell me, without telling me what they offer, what is it that their their potential customer doesn't like about their current solution, and how are they sure that that's a big deal that would warrant hiring someone else, meaning hiring somebody else's solution, hopefully their solution. So I know you all know about how good your product is and what it can do. So can you tell me from your customer perspective, what is it they don't like about the current solution, the current state?
Hello. So what if there's no other current solution? What if my product or solution is novel?
Well, almost okay. But what is the job that they're doing? Again, going back to the job that they already have.
So their job is to become healthier, for example, to live better. And this product that I'm offering is sort of like novel and
okay. So they are, if you're saying that their job is to be healthier, right, then there's something about the current solution, the current state. It may not be a current solution that is not ideal. It can be the current state is not ideal. And what they're really complaining about is the current state. Like, I have no way to be healthier given certain parameters.
yes, right? Yes.
Okay, so then that is your current state. Now you may not be competing with a specific product that they hired to do it, but you're competing with the current state, and they're still not happy because there's something missing. Because unless there's something missing, you're just a gadget, right? Like, we don't really want to be a sharper image kind of product. Like, wow, cool, totally don't need it, but it's it's someone's birthday coming up. I might as well just get it. It's really cool.
Maybe it's like a little more essential than that, because I already talked about it to someone, and they said, oh my god, I really want you to go through with it, because if that product is commercialized, I really want it. So
and they told you the main reason for the selection, right? There's something that they said, that there's something about what you do that made them say, yes, that's what I'm really looking in the solution.
Yes, so I think
right?
I heard you say like less pain. So I think it falls into that category, that it causes, sort of like it reduces pain.
Okay, and by pain you mean physical pain or the pain of dealing with their job?
I would say definitely physical and emotional. Yes.
Okay. Now that's the best way, sort of to be. If you can, if you can solve their pain, both physical and emotional, and the current solution, current state is not addressing it, and there's no one that is your competition that can come in with the same proposition. So then in your case, it's the competition that might be the area to focus on. Because as an investor, I know you're not the only one thinking about that customer.
Yes.
Others see that customer, they probably have a sense that that customer is not that happy. And there's probably something, if someone is not happy, you can sell them something, right?
Yes.
If someone is happy, that's a tough sell. But if someone is not happy, you can walk in and sell them whatever you're going to sell them on. So others might be trying it. So then you're almost competing in the investor mind. Your solution may be competing with other possible solutions if the problem is well understood. So that's something to think about.
Yes, thank you.
So we're going to follow this rule number 1. I mean, it's a rule about customer interview, like you don't mention your solution, but I did the same with you today, because I'm trying not to ask what the solution is and just focus on the customer and how they do it. You also, when you interview customers, do not ask leading questions. And investors will ask you how you did interviews and what did you ask your potential customers. How did, if it was a monkey survey, they may want to see the questions. And if the questions are leading, again, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You think you're getting the good data to prove that there's that customer need, and customers would want your solution. But if it's not, if it's leading, again, investors will pretty much discard that. When you do your interviews, here are other things just to think about. So how often current solution is being used? Now that's not taking into account instances where you're competing with the current state, not a current solution. But if there's a current solution, how often is it used? Which means how often will a customer need your solution? Who makes the decision to buy? That's critical. Investors want to know who's writing the check. That's on your business model slide, always. The business model is really who is writing you a check and what for. So who makes the decision to buy? The benefit, the end user may be a patient, for example, but the decision maker is not the patient. Again, how many users utilize it, buy it, that goes to scaling the model and being able to estimate the market size. Other different types of users, again, you want to account for that in your customer interview. Let's just say, are they, if you're targeting clinical, right? Is it the doctor? Is it also nurses that might be using your solution? Because you need to account for a lot of variation based on their role. And again, always ask to be introduced to other users. That's the only way. And I will always feel bad for people going through I-Corps, because they literally suffer. And they have to make like this 90 or 100 interviews, and they're pulling straws. They're trying to get to more users and get the, and it feels sometimes you just want to get through it. You just want to get all those interviews done. But again, use one interview to hop on to the next, ask to be introduced. So now the main meat of it is articulating your value proposition. So this is a formula that I like to use. Again, this is not how your value proposition will sound necessarily like at the end. This is more behind the scenes. This is for you. This is how you construct it. And I know a lot of people are very sort of logical. If you're in the science realm, you kind of want to think more in terms of like, how do I do it, as opposed to something vague. So this is an easy formula for you to use. So for a type of a customer who is trying to do XYZ, we offer a solution. What is it that you offer? And it results in allowing that customer to do, again, X, Y, and Z. And you can articulate it in terms of what is it that allows them to do, or in terms of what gains they get, or what pain it eliminates. Lastly, you say we do it different, we do it better than competition because, again, X, Y, Z. This is the skeleton of an elevator pitch, really. When you hear someone doing a very elegant elevator pitch, you may not see that format, but if you look at it, you will find the elements. It's basically you write it out as a formula, and then you make it look pretty. You may change almost everything. You may change the order, you may change it where, how you say it. But those elements are always there, and investors are looking for them. So as an investor, I want to have answers to those questions. That's all that your elevator pitch really is. So let's use an example. And again, I make an example that doesn't exist to make it easy. So for working moms, right, that's your customer, who are taking care of their toddlers, right? That's the job they're doing. We offer self-cleaning diapers. Everyone would love that, right? It results in incredible time savings, right? So we articulate what is it that we're offering as functional time saving, allowing them to spend more time with their children and feel that they're being good parents. So I'm including here the emotional part of it after the functional part. So I'm talking about the time savings, what will it enable them to do, and then also pushing on that emotional aspect. Now, you may decide not to use the emotional part of it and simply say, focus on the time savings and just ease of use. It's up to you how you construct it. Now, the final statement is we can do it better because we're the only ones that have the tech to provide that kind of functionality. No one else has an IP on self-cleaning diapers. Now, that's an easy one, and you're lucky if you can articulate it that way, because it means you discovered something that no one else can now use, and it's a barrier to entry on top of it. But a lot of times you will say we can do it better because our competition is using a different methodology, or they don't quite get the results that we're able to get. Whatever that story is, that's what you articulate on here. So let's do, back to the fun part. Let's actually move on to the value prop that you guys can articulate. So Elmira, I'm going to ask you because, we all know sort of who your customer is by now. We haven't inkling what it is. So how would you articulate your value prop? And you can go by this formula, or you can just first articulate it the way you always articulated it, and then we can all try to make it work with this formula.
So you want me to basically fill in the blanks, right?
Yep. So let's go with right here. How would you articulate your value proposition? So now you're free to talk about your solution.
So I guess my value proposition would be one thing I actually didn't understand. So if the product improves your health, would it be functional or life-changing?
I would argue both, but it depends on how you So let's try and do the formula then first. So for what type of customer? So you said caregivers before, but can you be more specific? They're probably caregivers that take care of children was what I heard before.
Okay, so sorry, that's not me then. That's because I'm Elmira and I was talking about something else.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You guys are all off camera too, so I don't see your faces. Sorry about that. Okay, so what type of customer are you targeting? Someone who is conscious about that, right?
So my customers are someone with a certain disease.
Okay, you're free now to just run with it. You can tell the name of the disease or anything else you want to say. So
Okay,
we just,
so they have a food sensitivity, for example,
Yeah.
like they, yes. So for customers with food sensitivities, who want to be more energetic during their life and also eat whatever they want. I mean, eat a certain type of food that they're allergic to, and also how would I say it?
so maybe who want to find ways to be less limiting
yes,
of
yes,
choices,
exactly.
to expand their choices. To me, it sounds a little bit more like, if there's a pain of dealing with food, basically, you always have to watch, you have to, your choices are limited in a restaurant, right? So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to manage their diets in an easier way and enjoy the foods that they would like to enjoy, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
then we offer a solution. So what do you offer?
So we offer supplement, for example.
Okay.
Yes, which is natural.
Okay.
And
For natural
yes,
supplement. Okay.
yes, a natural supplement, and it allows them to eat whatever they want and not have the side effects that they get when they eat that food, and this would result in happier and uh, healthier life, something like that.
Okay. And we do it better than competition because
Well, I'm one of the customers, to be honest, and I haven't found anything better than I mean, I'm not sure about the results of what I'm offering, but I haven't found any solution that really works.
okay, so I would say, without knowing the technical aspects of your solution, right? Like, what is it about the supplement? I would expect to hear something along the lines, we do it better than competition because we're the only company that put together a unique combination of ingredients that completely eliminates all the side effects from the when people get allergies to it would probably be more limited because I don't want to say if it's all the foods, that would probably be very overreaching statement. But again, maybe you discovered something. So that's what I would expect from the value proposition. Why you do it better. That's where you do the secret sauce a little bit. Like, why is it? Is it a unique combination of ingredients that you found? Is it a synthetic formula that you invented? Is it something that you discovered that you were able to patent? And it's better because it completely eliminates. It doesn't have side effects. It doesn't have any implications, negative implications.